This is Digital Work Diaries, a podcast where we talk about research stories on the changing nature of work, hosted by the Digital Work Lab of Victoria University of Wellington.
Hello and welcome to this episode. I'm Shafiq, and in this episode, I have the pleasure of hosting Chloe, a PhD student at Victoria University of Wellington. Today, we discuss one of our recent research papers titled Human AI Teams Impact on Organization, a review. Chloe, could you please give us a short description of what your PhD is about?
Yeah, sure. So my PhD topic is looking at how human AI collaboration impacts organizational structures. So the paper that we'll be discussing today is a bit of a precursor to that, looking more at the broader topic of how human AI teams impacts on organizations a bit more holistically.
Interesting. So, what motivated you to do this study?
Yeah, so I guess my background's a little bit different to a lot of people's, where I've come from a strong industry background, working in industry for the past 10 years. So I guess I saw firsthand the impact of organizational restructures, and then also working on various different roles within technology implementation projects. I got to see the impacts that these significant changes had on roles and responsibilities within the teams that we were implementing to. So that got me thinking about the linkage between digital technology implementation and the impact on organizational structures. And then as I dove deeper into the literature on the topic, I discovered that there was quite a big gap, which we don't currently understand, around the human AI collaboration impact on the organizational structures. So that's sort of where I've ended up at the moment. And then as I've been reading more and discussing with others about this topic, I think it's just becoming more and more important that we understand it.
Great. So coming back to your paper, Human AI Teams Impact on Organization, a review, what are your key findings of this research?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting study, actually, because as we delved into the literature, there were three different core themes that started emerging. So the first one was around key success factors for implementing human AI teams. And the most common items that were coming out of that piece of research was looking at making sure that we're playing to human and AI strengths. So when you think of how a team works with humans, you think about who's good at what. It's the same case for human AI collaborations as well. The second one that came out of the key success factors was around skill development. So not only making sure that the AI knows what it's doing and has that background information from the organizational standpoint, but also around the human skill development and making sure the human element is also equipped to be able to work as a human AI collaboration. The third one that came up quite regularly with the key success factors was around system transparency. So making sure that the human element has visibility of what data the AI is using and the processing of that AI as well. The second core theme which came up was about the use cases of human AI teams. So there were quite a few of these. We've had to shorten the list a little bit for the paper, but also appended quite a few more if you're interested. So the core use case that came up for us was around decision making. So that was using human and AI to sort of work together to be able to make a decision effectively. Another one was around routine tasks. So that was where the AI completed the routine tasks, and then that freed up the human team member to be able to do the more complex or creative activities. The third one that came out of that was around personal assistance and also coordination. So that might be helping with writing emails or taking minutes from meetings and that kind of thing. And then the fourth one that came up under use cases was around problem solving. So a little bit similar again to the decision-making piece, where problem solving opportunities come up. With complex problems, the human has the contextual understanding and the AI has the data. So working together in that element. And the third key finding that we found was around challenges of implementing human AI teams. So again, there were quite a few. We've put 5 in the paper because they were all close contenders with which one had the most amount of counts, or how many times it was raised throughout papers. The first one there being trustworthiness. So if a human can't trust what the AI is producing, or we talk a lot about black box with AI, we can't move forward if we can't trust the technology we're using. The second, again, which won't be a surprise to anybody, but is around bias. So as the AI is being trained in things, there might be those inherent biases that come through the training data. So that is definitely a challenge that needs to be worked through. From the human perspective, job insecurity is a big one. So there's that real fear that as we implement human AI teams, at what point does the AI actually become sufficient enough that we don't need humans anymore? So that's a real fear that seems to be coming through. And then a couple of slightly smaller ones was around AI actually using data, data security and that kind of concern there, and also the time and effort to adopt these technologies. So that's sort of a bit of a run through of those core findings, but there's definitely more details in the paper as well.
Thank you. It's very interesting. How about your research approach? What approach did you exactly follow?
Yeah, so we took a grounded theory methodology approach, mainly because that allowed us to sort of really dig deeper and understand the foundational basis of the research. So we were systematic, and we did have to assess papers to make sure that they were actually relevant, that they covered the right terminologies. There were quite a few cycles of our process as well to make sure that we captured all of the different terms, because not everybody calls it human AI collaboration. Some call it computer interaction and other things as well. So we took the grounded theory methodology, which runs through 5 steps. So define, search, select, analyze, and present. And we just did multiple cycles to make sure that we had captured as many papers as possible relevant to our topic, which ended up to be about 122 in the end. And then we coded those papers and came to our findings that we just discussed.
Oh, great. And how about what is the most surprising finding so far you have?
Yeah, I think the most surprising one actually was the use case around decision making, which was our top use case. It came up the most amount of times. The reason why I found that surprising was because, not so much because AI and humans can't do effective decision making together, but because all of the papers weren't able to sort of come to a single conclusion as to why that would be such a high impact and sort of how that would actually work in reality. So I think to me that was really interesting to sort of see and start looking at. I think there's definitely a lot more work that could be done in that space.
Great. So what do you think? What would be the next step of your research?
Yeah, so we actually have a couple of things we're working on at the moment. The first is with this paper here, we're actually doing some further analysis and sort of trying to go a little bit deeper on some of the findings there. So there will be another paper. This one's going to a conference, but we're going to do another one which will be published within a journal just to go that little bit deeper with that analysis there as well, and allow for that to sort of help people actually take those findings and apply them, which is really exciting. We're also looking at how some of these findings are actually can be applied to the business group of human resource management. So I think that's quite an exciting space to look into as well. So yeah, we've got more coming down the pipe, and we're trying to look at ways that we can actually now apply this research, not just talk about it.
Lovely. So do you think, is there anything else we should know about your research, or you'd like to share anything else of your research?
I think we've covered most things, but I guess it's just a very exciting space to be part of. I think it's been particularly interesting because I do come from an industry background, so having that perspective and doing a bit of that problematization has been really exciting, and I'm quite passionate about seeing this through and making sure that our organisations as well as academics can sort of get something out of this research and use it to propel themselves forward and be successful.
Thank you, Chloe. Thanks for joining. And I look forward to hearing more about this research in future. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks for listening to this Digital Work Diaries podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback and questions. Drop us a comment below, and we look forward to catching you next time.